Welcome to Pixelated episode 97. I'm your host, Will Saddleberg. This week, Andrew Romero joins Damien and I for a deep dive into a pair of interesting leaks we spotted coming out of Android 17 Beta 4. First, we discussed the ongoing rumors surrounding Google's Pixel laptop and Android for desktop, and wonder what this company needs to do to compete in an increasingly tough field. Then we look over to Pixel Glow, a rumored in-development feature for the Pixel 11 that might help explain what's going on with its uncovered camera bar. Or we might be hilariously proven wrong in just a few short months. Either way, it all starts right after this message from our sponsor, Proton. Grab your phone and take a look at your app drawer right now. You've probably found yourself relying on these same old apps and services since the Nexus days, and what suited you best back then might not be the right choice in 2026. Luckily, Proton can help bring you into a privacy-first ecosystem built for our modern age. Proton offers practically every service you could possibly need under the sun across every platform, including email, calendar, file storage, password management, document editors, and, of course, a trusted VPN. Built with class-leading end-to-end encryption, Proton's entire suite is fast, intuitive, and secure, and export tools mean you don't need to worry about leaving data behind on those other apps. Pixelated listeners can save 30% off an annual subscription to Proton Unlimited, which includes 500 gigabytes of cloud storage, custom email domains, a dedicated customer support team, and so much more. It's what's best for your current phone, not whatever you were using back in 2013. Upgrade to Proton today and save 30% on your annual subscription by heading to proton.me/9to5google or by clicking the link in the show notes. That's proton.me/9to5google. Thanks to Proton for sponsoring Pixelated.
So we have a special guest, guys, that I think we should all give a round of applause to. This is a good friend of everybody who should be listening to this podcast. This is Andrew Romero, colleague, friend. Any superlative you can give this man, you will give this man. He's joining us in lieu of Abner jet-setting around the US. And we're going to talk about something pretty cool today. I think we're going to be talking about potential leaks, what's going to be happening with the Pixel lineup, the proposed Pixel laptop. I just want to ask you straight away, in lieu of Abner not being here, because he's a big fan of ecosystem. What do you think of the possibility of a Pixel laptop, Andrew?
I'm scared to get excited. I'm really scared to get excited.
Why? Google's never screwed up a laptop before.
That's true. That's a fact.
You know what? Actually, I say that most of their laptops have been decent, except for like the Pixel. I guess I'm thinking about like the Pixel, something like the Pixel C, which is more of a hybrid device. But it's more that they have not fully they've had commitment problems with laptops.
Yeah. Well, some of the best hardware experiences I had originally came from, I guess it wasn't technically their laptop, but their tablet that they had with the glass and metal panels. Yeah. It was boxy and nice, and it was great. The pen was great. At least that was my experience of it. But on the software side, I'm excited. I just don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. Obviously, just to reiterate the news, if anyone is unaware, that there was some indication that there is going to be a Pixel laptop late this year, based upon some leaks that I think were sourced by 9to5Google ourselves. We don't have any information on what it might look like, but we do know that there are lots of other things at play here where Google is going to be working on integrating Android and Chrome OS into one, I guess, unified platform. Like, I think we've talked about it at length on the podcast before, but as somebody who, and I'm sure you're like the same as me and same as Will, is that we have certain productivity tools that we can't necessarily use outside of, say, Windows and Mac. I'm intrigued to see how somebody who we haven't necessarily spoke to at length about this feels about Android as a potential desktop operating system.
Yeah, we shoehorned ourselves into like one specific spot where we need certain programs to live in our own little bubble. Yeah. And historically, things like Chromebooks really haven't suited our needs. In that kind of area.
And I've been thinking, because we've talked about this, and it sounds like, Andrew, you're in a very similar boat to myself and Damien, in that like there are enough applications that don't have easy web replacements or Android app replacements to make a switch to a Chromebook as we know it today, I'm really, and I've kind of said this before, but like in the era of like compatibility layers being as good as they are today, right? Like every operating system is kind of using them at this point to some degree. You have the Mac Silicon transition, and you have the Windows on ARM transition, and you have Steam OS and Linux and emulating or running the compatibility layer for Windows apps. There are Windows emulators that allow you to play Steam games on Android now, right? Like all of this stuff tells me that like, okay, with this transition to Android, let's make this stick. Let's build these compatibility layers that will allow me to buy a Google laptop and open, I'm recording this podcast in Adobe Audition right now. Open Adobe Audition. You know what I mean?
Like, do we think, so in terms of like, we don't have any visuals of what it's going to look like, but my biggest shocking aspect of this entire thing and the fact that Google is working on a laptop, we kind of thought that would be the case. This would arguably be the first dedicated, and I hesitate to use the term Android desktop, but Android desktop laptop. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous. I nearly swore at how ridiculous it was. Like, Google has to nail this out of the gate, surely, because how are they going to get partners on board to do this? Surely, I'm sure Samsung will do something there. They're kind of doing that with the Tab series anyway, right? I don't know if any of you guys have used a Galaxy Tab for a while, but some of those just feel like, at this point, just get a laptop. So maybe this is that final bridge that does it. I don't really, I'm kind of trying to understand how they're going to sell this to the likes of Samsung.
Yeah, I don't know. You obviously have no idea what they're going to do. And that's the whole point of this, right? Is just speculation. You would really hope that they give it a proper, like you said, desktop laptop feel.
They have
because
to
that's,
at this point.
That's the only way it survives among like people who are more serious about what they're doing. Like I couldn't live on a Chromebook. I couldn't work on that just because they're great for certain things, right? But there are dedicated apps I need, all of my RAM, for better or worse, for using. And I would really hope that Google feels the same way about this prospective, laptop idea.
We've, like I said, we've talked about this a few times, you and I, Damien, and I'm really happy to have your input here, Andrew, as well, because it sounds like we're all sort of looking at this the same way. Those previous times I've talked about this, I've been like, Google is, I would argue, already late to launching this operating system, like Android for desktops as an operating system, like whatever the Android experience that would power this laptop, right? I want to like triple down on that I think they're late, like because when I was talking about that, I was talking about that in the context of Windows 11 unpopularity, like people, microslop, right? Like I all I have to tell you is that word, and you know exactly the like commentary online I'm talking about. And in the last month, we've seen movement from Microsoft that they are trying to, and like I'm very skeptical about this, but they did this whole press blitz where they talked about how they're going to make a bunch of changes to Windows 11 that fix a bunch of the complaints people have about it, and unrelated to anything AI, like improving the start menu and improving its general performance and all of this stuff, right? Like things that people have, allowing the taskbar to change sides again, like you could on Windows 95, I think. The first desktop operating system I ever used was Windows 95, and I feel fairly confident I could do it on that. Certainly on XP. And again, XP is 25 years old almost. So they've done this press blitz, and they're saying they're going to roll these changes out over the next few weeks, and then or months or whatever, and then on the other side of it, you now have the MacBook Neo, the $600 MacBook Neo, that is like, certainly a mid-ranged laptop, right? Like nobody's pretending that thing is like quote unquote premium, but for its price range, I would argue it is. And it has a real operating system that you can't, I'm not saying that you're going to get your best Photoshop performance on the MacBook Neo, but it will run Photoshop, right? Like in a way that you can't really talk about Chromebooks right now. Maybe Photoshop's a bad example because there's web stuff, but like name your Adobe app of choice or name your desktop app of choice that isn't on Chrome. Like it can probably run well enough on the Neo unless you're really exporting like 4K video or something. But like certainly I could record this podcast and edit this podcast on the MacBook Neo in a way I cannot on a Chromebook at the moment. And so it has gone from me thinking that Google is late to this but can still nail it to me being like, Google needs to, like, if Google doesn't 100% nail whatever this Android desktop experience is, whatever the Pixel laptop, hardware, software, and pricing is, nobody's going to buy it. Like that, like the landscape of this desktop OS war is shifting dramatically, like on a weekly basis. And it has gone, like the stakes just continue to get higher.
Do you think the focus on creating the tablet style devices that perform as well as laptop, like among the entire market, has kneecapped companies like Google in terms of being able to create something powerful as a laptop in that form factor, just because they don't want to commit to something like that. They don't think it'll sell. But, and then Apple comes out with the Neo, and it's an instant hit because it's the first logical purchase in a long time. It makes sense as a product.
Yes.
Meanwhile, a lot of these other companies might still be in the same headspace of, well, let's just try to make our tablets as powerful as possible so people can use them as laptops. And part of me thinks that maybe that's hindered them and their plans to like actually get ahead and just create something that works.
Yeah, I mean, Google's, I sort of misspoke on Google's history with laptops because I don't think it's all that bad when you look at the grand picture. That's not true for tablets. I would say that Google's experience of optimize from everything from optimizing Android for tablets to trying to get better tablet dedicated applications or experiences to, their own experience making tablets outside of the Nexus 7 devices, which are.
I won't ever have slander against Nexus 7.
I'm not slandering them, but I think they were both good products, especially for their time and for their price.
Yeah,
they're also 15 years old. So like,
True.
Like we're talking ancient history here. Like we're talking Android 4, like, I don't know. I guess to me, it's more like you sort of in a post iPad world. If we're going to talk.
But speaking about the iPad, I'm worried that Google will fall into the trap of the iPad. We don't want a halfway house.
No. This needs to be a Windows Mac competitor. This cannot be a this can't be a DeX competitor because that's not a real thing. And like that's my biggest fear is that this is just like a DeX-like experience on Google branded hardware where I'm like, it's fine for what it is. But the problem is that like the Chromebook experience, the Chrome OS experience is outdated. Like it was perfect for the time in which Google launched it and pushed hard on it, right? And I'm not just talking about, obviously you want to talk about enterprise and specifically education. Let's set that aside. Even from a consumer perspective, Chromebooks launched in the wake of netbooks, right? Like they were a netbook and an iPad competitor. And it was easy to see of like, well, like the web can do all the basic stuff you're doing on either a netbook or an iPad, right? Like you're going to miss out on the iPad apps again. But if you're more focused on productivity, the idea of buying a cheap but easy to use and fast enough for the price laptop, like with, just running Chrome was appealing at the time. But I think, we've as price to performance has come down even in the RAM apocalypse, right? Like it kind of setting that aside, but like largely speaking, you don't get to a MacBook Neo without advancements in what performance you can achieve for lower price points, right? Mm-hmm. In that era, you are looking at devices that are only a few $100s that are running on even just like mobile hardware, like the MacBook Neo or like, again, I mentioned Android emulation. Like if you throw WinLater or any of those like Windows emulator apps on like a Galaxy S26 Ultra, like it's going to run Steam games decently well with that performance.
Pretty well, yeah.
Like within this era of desktop applications are kind of table stakes now. Like Google needs to have this there, or it's such a waste of time and effort, because like there's so many other options now that you can go. And I mean, even if you're against the MacBook Neo, if you're worried about its RAM constraints or you don't like Mac OS, fine. But like the sort of the comeback I've heard from like Windows fans, I had XDA's Rich Woods on Sideload to talk about this, is that there are other options you can buy in that $600-$700 range that run Windows that might appeal to you more. But either way, I can't imagine this laptop launching for less than $600. So this is the competition that it's going to face. It needs to be as useful.
I mean, surely in the next few months, obviously we are aware that Google are doing this. We know that they're moving towards this desktop paradigm. They're going to have to get all of these partners on board. I think if one partner signs on, and I do think Adobe is, obviously we're biased, we'll say Adobe.
But it's just the most obvious example of like, get them on stage. Look, I don't like that company. I hate that I have been paying monthly fees to them since college. But, it's regardless, I have personally not found enough apps to substitute my own Adobe suite. Because I use so many aspects of it. It's not just that I use like just Photoshop and Lightroom. Like there is not like a great replacement for Audition that I have found in the way that there is for Photoshop or even Premiere. Like get them on stage, and that's a win, because that's usually who Apple turns to promote productivity on the iPad.
I mean, there's another kind of elephant in the room, is that we've seen in the last 2 weeks, Linux has gained 5% market share on Steam's hardware survey, which is insane to think that. And I'm part of that 5%. I have a few devices running Linux. I do genuinely think I would rather run Linux at this stage than, obviously I'm speaking from like a position of not knowing what Android desktop's going to look like, but I'm very, very intrigued to see how Google rolls out updates, how there's a transition from Chrome OS to Android desktop, whatever they call it. Aluminium OS is it? I think it's been worked on. But I guess the biggest difficulty is how are they? Yeah, you mentioned it. Is that MacBook Neo? Like, I think they're using a smartphone processor. Is almost like a look what we can do with this hardware available to them. If I cannot imagine the uproar if Google does not make performance gains if they think they're going to put a Tensor chip in a laptop. I can imagine it would be, I don't think it would be disastrous for performance. I just don't think it would be where it needs to be. But at the same time, I'm wary that would they go with a Snapdragon chip? Could you see Google saying we're going to put a Snapdragon X2 Elite in a laptop that has our name
they
badge all over it?
I always forget they partner with Snapdragon on the watch. They have not switched to Tensor on watches. So like, it's not like that there isn't a relationship there they could build on if they're like, we think Tensor is best left for phones.
Have we seen any like laptop specific Tensor build names come out or anything? Like
I don't think
nothing
so.
at this stage. It's almost so early. It's so early. We're kind of preempting a lot of the stuff that may potentially maybe make this void in about 48 hours time. But right. There's been no evidence even in software leak. I mean, this is from the most recent Android 17 stable beta, if that makes sense. Not QPR, which we'll get onto towards the end of the podcast. But I'm intrigued to see what your perfect setup would be. Do you think we could see a 2-in-1? I can't see them going back to that. I think this is just going to be a bit like, I mean, I think if Google made the Pixelbook Go, but kind of for the new gen, I would be kind of happy because I think the hardware is absolutely fantastic there. But I know a lot of people love the original Pixelbook, and it's kind of like weird hinge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm interested to see what you guys think. Do you think you could stomach a 2-in-1, or do you think it's just best off being a complete clamshell laptop that we used to?
I would. My gut says clamshell laptop, just generic, because there's so much data now around like the response we're seeing around just good laptops versus like things like, what Lenovo releases on a yearly basis. Yeah. They make good products. I like Lenovo stuff a lot, but they do release just quantity. It's in different hinges, different styles and everything. And you don't see a lot of those as go-to for a majority of people. And I think if they want to hit the broader target, just the generic laptop, with good good hardware. But that's the thing you don't know what their game plan is. Do you think they have a plan to make, years of laptops? In that case, are they just going to start with, so performance for now? Maybe they do make a Tensor chip for their own laptop. That would have to start at a baseline. It can't be amazing out of the box. If it is, great, but it's probably not going to be.
Well, no. I'm concerned you're describing the Pixel tablet. Because that's the argument you can make of like, oh, they just they started with like a so tablet, but don't worry, they're going to iterate on this. I did, just kidding. Nobody bought it, so we're not making anything. Like, that's my concern, is that Google struggles to take big screen devices seriously sometimes, I think, or at the very least, maybe they take them seriously, but they have commitment issues and they don't really know, they don't have like a great idea in terms of like, how to make it stick in the market. And I genuinely think the only thing they can do here is to effectively build a MacBook Neo competitor. It's got to be, and it can be a 2-in-1, or, I think a touchscreen is a no-brainer, obviously. Like, it'll have a touchscreen, but I think they'd probably be better off thinking about it how the Surface laptop, right? Where it's like, it's got a touchscreen, but it doesn't bend all the way back around. I think that would be fine. Although, again, it depends on how they're thinking about Android. Are they thinking about it in terms of like, this is just kind of a Chrome OS rebrand and, the apps here still work how they do on Chrome OS? Or is this like, we have new ideas on how this platform will work? It's going to be more like a traditional Windows or Mac desktop. It just comes down to that. But yeah, I think they have to. Maybe I'm being too hard on Google, but after the Pixel tablet, I want them to nail this. Like, they have to, and the fact that they flirted with laptops so many times and gone back and forth, like at least 2 times now on whether they're going to make laptops, like, do it, or you have to nail it, or I don't believe you, basically.
I mean, the biggest question I think that might come off the back of this is, how is an Android desktop operating system going to truly separate itself from Android, the phone platform? Because I feel like there's going to be some sort of level of divergence there because of the way that these updates will potentially work. So Mac OS is updated in a bigger fashion over a slower period. But I think putting Android in front of it, and this is my potential concern, if they're pushing the updates at the same rate that you would push the updates for phones, then you could get a drastically different experience year to year. And I don't think people are going to like that. I think we're kind of used to a desktop paradigm that stays, to be frank, almost quite static for a long period of time. Like, I'm the kind of person who I will not update my Mac Studio, my MacBook, if I know something's going to potentially break a piece of software. These are the kind of things that I'm hoping that they've thought about, because you can't have something that's constantly evolving when it needs to be a workhorse. It just has to work in its base configuration with little to no updates necessary. Mm-hmm. It can be completely siloed away from your phone. I'm kind of wondering how they're going to broach all these subjects. I'm really intrigued to see if we could speak to somebody at Google about this in future when this product is available, why they made certain decisions. And obviously we're preempting it and we're kind of speculating. But there is, when you start to look at it more broadly, I agree with you, Will. This has been something that they could have done. They could have pulled the trigger on multiple times, but they obviously decided not to do it. Yeah. There's probably good reason why they wouldn't want to do that. How do you convince people to, you're not using Windows anymore, you're going to use Android? Well, I always use it on my phone, so why would I do that?
Right. So that's and maybe this is the last thing we can touch on before we move on to whatever Pixel Glow is. But I think the thing we have not brought up yet, and we've been recording for 22 minutes, is Gemini. The Gemini question around all of this, and whether the three of us, me especially, is just looking at this from a quote unquote outdated perspective. And I'm not actually saying my perspective is necessarily outdated, but perhaps in Silicon Valley it is. How much of this is about them building a laptop that it wants to be powered by Gemini as much as possible? And I think the answer might be a lot.
Can that make up for it though? I don't know. You guys use Gemini a bit less than me.
I'm turning to an operating system to get work done. Typically, like I'm not, if when I grab a tablet or my phone at night, right? Like I every now and then I'm on a laptop at night, but typically, for I'm reaching for devices that are a little bit easier and less stress to use, and I'm turning to Windows or Mac to do my job. And I would prefer to see that experience from Google, but I also know that, the Pixel in general is all about Gemini at this point. Like that is a Gemini first phone. And I can see them, after having said, we're not going to make laptops anymore, being like, ooh, but what if we made an AI first laptop? Like I'm guessing that's kind of where this rebrand.
You have to imagine that would be
rebirth
catalyst.
Yeah. Exactly. A catalyst. Perfect word. Exactly. It has to be how this started, was the idea of interacting with Gemini. And that's not, you've seen the same thing with Windows and Copilot, and that's a rousing success. Everybody uses Copilot. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I was wondering where you were going with that too.
I mean, Gemini would be much better, but like there's a reason I will not buy another Chromebook, because it doesn't fit my life.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I think that the idea that Google is now building a lot of desktop application, we've seen Gemini come to Mac, it's coming to Windows.
It's a great point.
It's probably
it's
a good
right
time.
there. The clue, we talked about the clue last week. It's the Gemini first desktop app.
It's just alt space away on my current PC, but I don't use it all too often. If I need anything, it's Chrome. Google it or use other tools that I'm used to using on my workhorse computer. Like I have patterns, and I've built these synapses physically, in my own way of doing things. And
right.
I don't know. It'd be a new experience no matter what, right? It's a new operating system.
Which is a risk in general, because nobody wants to relearn, again, if you're using this stuff for work, you want to get that work done as fast as possible, and relearning the basics of an operating system, even over a week is a hiccup that you have to convince people to get over.
Now there is a subset of users who will jump at new things to do those things
100%, but it's not
that with a lot of the AI stuff that has been pushed out over the last couple of years, is you can do this better just by describing what you want to do, and sure, but I know how to do that in a couple of clicks.
Yes, exactly.
That's just where I fall on it, but obviously people are going to differ in their opinions.
Yes. Yeah, I think the first protocol is just making that Chrome experience fully featured on Android. We're probably talking about this from a phone-centric and a tablet-centric situation, and I think maybe Google has probably already thought about this internally. And I'm excited to see kind of what they do with the operating system first, but then the hardware comes a little bit secondary. I think that kind of is the piece of the puzzle that obviously builds itself once you have a preset notion of how this desktop OS is going to look. Let's get into another piece of information that happened late last week. It appears that Google is working on I guess it's a feature for the Pixel 11 series. We found that it's going to be called Pixel Glow. Is it Pixel Glow?
Yep.
Yeah, Pixel Glow, which sounds to me like a light or something along those lines, or a lamp or something, but it looks as though it could potentially be something tied to the Pixel 11 hardware specifically. And given the fact that there's not many changes there, I'm unsure as to how this is going to help sell this as a brand new device or as a new device in this trio of lineups that looks exactly the same.
Yeah. Let me read the screenshot we have here that kind of lines out what this is, or at least what language we're going to be discussing here. Stay in the moment without losing touch. Pixel Glow uses subtle light and color on the back of your device to inform you of important activity when it's face down. Use Pixel Glow. Then there's a manage experiences button, and then an information description that says use Pixel Glow with caution if you're light sensitive. If you have flash notifications turned on, you won't see Pixel Glow for incoming calls, which seems to give a lot. So I have two theories here. And I had floated them in Slack last week when this broke, and I'm now going to bring it to the wider pixelated audience, which is one, it is the reason that the camera bar no longer has a cover on it and is back to a Pixel 6-esque uncovered all glass camera bar. We had talked when this first leaked a couple weeks ago. We talked about how strange it is for Google to go back to this, because the reason they had moved away from the all glass camera bar was the Pixel 6 had lens flare issues because of how it was designed. And so with the Pixel 7, one of the changes they made was this new cover that has slimmed down in the year since, but has kind of stuck there since the Pixel 7. Not here anymore. Number two, and Damien, you'll remember, we spent like 5 minutes on this podcast talking about the larger flashlight and how interesting it was that the phone seemed to have a larger flashlight. And how I was like, oh, I hope they add like Google or Apple's beam control that they have on the iPhone, on the Pro Series iPhones. Now with the Pixel Glow context, I'm like, it's something with this LED, and maybe how it reflects on the glass or something. I'm not like, I don't obviously know exactly how it's going to work, but you can see, looking back with hindsight, you're like, I see the puzzle pieces starting to form from this leak, from these two leaks, how this is going to maybe function.
I'm intrigued to see what you guys think in terms of if this just ends up being, as you've described, effectively a big notification LED. Like what is old is new again.
Yeah, I was going to say Pixel Glow by LGTM. I mean, because it feels very LG.
It does feel very LG. It's very ticker screen on the V10 and 20, or the LG Friends on the G5. Like it feels very like, I don't know. Let's just do a fun one for this one. Like, which is awesome. I think people, if this works even remotely well, I think people are going to lose their minds. Like nerds are going to, like us, are going to lose their minds over this, because how many times have people been like, I miss notification LEDs so much. Like, I wish they would bring them back. Oh, I bought Sony phones for 7 years longer than everybody else because they didn't get rid of the notification light. I think people will love this and in a way that I think is like more interesting than, Samsung's like Edge glow lights that they've done in the past. Like I think this is, and I think OnePlus has done that as well. This is much more interesting, and I think it's going to look cool. Like I'm excited to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
I suppose it helps differentiate, doesn't it? It helps differentiate a design that has kind of stayed the same for a few years. And even if it is just a notification LED option, which I'm sure there's more to this, I would not be surprised if in the advertising campaigns it's the Gemini Live glow, and when you're talking to it, it kind
you can see it. You can see the ad in your head. Already, you know exactly what it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think in terms of like external features that this could potentially bring up? I can only think of like flash, or maybe, the notification is obvious, but maybe you could have like soft glow for video, something like that. You could have like a diffused light. I don't really know. We've seen companies do lighting at the back of their phones and I don't like the term gimmick, but as a selling point. I don't think this needs to be the key selling point. I think it's just one of those extras that just happens to be part of a better device, I guess.
Do you have any theories, Andrew?
It's hard to pin down for me. I like what you're saying about it being diffused light throughout the camera bar. I think that would be pretty cool. But I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think with that new, at least my thinking with the new flashlight profile, I guess is more of a beamed look, but with the glow. Maybe not in the flashlight itself, because both can't work at the same time. I don't know how that'll work. But
it might not be the flashlight at all, to be clear. I'm just floating it could be, a light
it could be
built into the back of the phone that manages to shine through the glass, because it says subtle light and color on the back of your device. I just don't know what that is.
If you're light sensitive. So
right. It does mention that if you have flash notifications turned on, you won't see Pixel Glow for incoming calls, which makes me think it has something to do with that. With the flash, right? Like it could,
like or it just doesn't want to double down.
Yeah, it could also be that it doesn't want to double down. Yeah,
but flash notifications are on the front of the screen in the software.
Are they on the front? I thought it was referring to like the ability to have the camera.
No,
LED
the flash notifications are the ones where you put it on screen. So I think it is slightly different, but I think it's LED notifications for Pixel. But don't quote me on that.
No, I'll cut it. That's very confusing terminology from Google. But
it's basically the flash notifications is. I think, to be fair, let me just quickly check.
Is there not an accessibility thing that allows you to turn the flash on?
There is for phone calls. I don't remember it being. For
I just just wanted to make sure that I wasn't like completely
No, I
making
was
this up in my
following you.
head. Okay.
I was thinking you were right.
Okay, so flash notifications was initially the one where you would have your screen flash a different color, and then flash. You can choose now to camera flash is an option within this section. It wasn't in there initially.
Okay, so you have the option to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, if as I think you can probably speak more to this, Will, is that if it is disabling the camera flash notifications, and this is a lot more subtle, it might be good in professional environments for a start. It might be better in the evening if you have your phone on the side of your bed. I kind of hope that Google does some more stuff with this with regards to like, you could have, say you had it on an alarm, and then you can have like a soft lighting, a bit like the sunrise lamp. Like imagine that
little mini sunrise alarm.
Yeah, mini sunrise at the side of your bed or whatever it is, or like it goes a different color for specific alarms and things like that. I can imagine Google doing something around that, but at the same time, I'm intrigued to see how this will look. Is it going to take up the entire camera bar? Is it just going to be the tiny little sliver that we're kind of used to with the, like the assistant glow that you get, where the lines come in? I kind of hope that we get to learn more about this sooner rather than later, but
it's definitely a Gemini thing, right? Like we have evidence that it will have visual feedback when you're talking to Gemini, but I also, I definitely see them pushing it that way, but also I wonder if this is like maybe another attempt at like a digital wellness thing of like, don't worry, put your phone down, like turn your phone over and we'll use subtle light and color to tell you when you need to pick it back up. Like I could see that
fine
too.
By me.
Yeah. Same. I love that idea.
Flipping my phone over and also I really hope that you'll be able to assign LED colors to specific priority notifications, promotions. I can always ignore that color.
The manage experiences button makes me think you will be able to customize this to some extent. It just depends on,
or maybe they're AI assigned. Either way, I think that the AI categorization has been working pretty well anyways. So I'd be happy to see that. I
mean, thinking a bit more broadly, this could be a really good visualizer for like audio, like music, all that kind of stuff. I think that would be kind of cool as well. That would be really fantastic to see.
Yeah,
you're thinking very broad, and I'm like, I just want it to work. I want these little things to work well, And you're like,
but this seems like it could, like I also wonder, is this why the temperature sensor's gone? Like, is this making space for that
or bust? I mean,
which is fine. I mean, this is at the very least, this is more fun. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even if this is kind of a gimmick, so is the temperature sensor, and I would argue this is a lot more fun. So I will take this.
I mean, do you think we need something like this to just as a differentiator? I think maybe this is one of those things that Google has thought about of like, oh, how do we maximize I don't want to say marketing, but it kind of is, isn't it? It's like you're out and about in the world and say you're taking a photo and it's using an AI feature on your camera. I have no doubt in my mind that you'll be able to do something with the camera with it.
For sure.
Like a red recording light or something.
Or like a 3, 2, 1 countdown. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But
or like like a group photo alignment. Like indicator or something, like stuff like that. I mean, that'd be cool.
I think that's where Google does at least try things like that, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to say excited. I'm intrigued to see how it's going to work.
But it's one of those features that like a lot of like Samsung devices in the past have had these little features, and those little things have the power to keep people buying them for years. True. If Google needs those little like hooks. They're not gimmicks necessarily. I agree with you. It would be a functional tool, but it's one of those little quality of life things. It's like you can't drop. Same way a lot of people just can't drop. Screen calling or call screening or stuff like that. It's little.
It's now playing for me.
Right.
It's now playing for me. Yeah. Literally
exactly.
the most inconsequential feature on a phone, and I can't get rid
of it.
No,
it's for me. It's huge. App. I have been saying this for genuinely 8 plus years, or no, sorry. Yeah, 8+ years, 2017. Why is no one copying Now Playing? Like ever. Like I don't like Apple owns Shazam and they never thought to they haven't built this in. I just don't I don't understand. Like that I've always felt like that was ripe for the taking and I don't know. Maybe people don't use it as much as I think they do, but it since the Pixel 2 that has been my and that's why it's been nice to see Google fix it a little bit. Like they kind of busted it for like the last few months, and like it seems to be coming back into a better spot. They added the like button to search from the lock screen back, which I don't understand why that ever went away. That was so handy. When it wouldn't detect a song, you could just automatically launch it anyway. I just, yeah, man. And to bring it back to Pixel Glow, like it's the same idea of like you're saying, Andrew, I love this. I love this thing, and now I'm gonna stick with Pixel for as long as it's here. And then to echo what you're saying, Damien, it also draws more attention to the most iconic piece of the Pixel design, which effectively acts as marketing when you're out in the world. Like it's such a smart idea. And I'm so like prepped to be disappointed that we floated all these really cool ideas for it. And then we're going to get like 2 of them. But like, still, I hope that like, there's obviously so much potential here. I really hope Google like crushes this, because I think you could do a lot of cool things with what is effectively just lights on the back of a phone. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like they're doing the way that they're going to integrate this into the hardware makes the most sense. I think there's obviously, I've tried different devices like I want to say an Asus ROG device. I don't know which one it was, but which had an LED strip at the back which you could put a custom message on. But that's kind of like, that's okay. It feels like you're looking at a ticker tape on like do you know what I mean? Like you've seen the train times or the bus times. It feels a bit weird, but
nothing. You're reminding me of Nothing now too, which we haven't brought up. But this feels very Nothing, which is a funny thing to say.
Yeah, like it feels very Nothing, but it does. But at the same time, I think this is going to be integrated into a component that makes sense, as opposed to I don't have any disdain for what Nothing's doing with their devices. Make your phone stand out as much as possible. And with Google now starting to make inroads, probably more so than Nothing can at the premium end of the spectrum, you can 100% imagine going into, I mean, I don't do this very often, but I know you guys in the US love your carrier stores. You go into a carrier store and all these phones are lit up looking at you with the Gemini Glow. You can imagine that people are like, what the hell is this? Go over and look at it, pick up the phone and realize, wow, this is pretty darn good. I can 100% see it from that aspect, even if it is just something that is there. Like, I don't know what I'm sure the manufacturing costs are exponential over just having a metal bar, but you can 100% see why they would do this. Anything to get eyes on their prize at the moment is just massive, and a great hulking light at the back that doubles as a camera flash is going to work, right? Surely. Yeah.
I just want to say, I don't think love is the right word when describing our relationship with carrier stores.
You know what I meant. No,
I just had to make that joke.
Yeah, it is an interesting time, because this is actually coming to the Pixel laptop as well. There is some element of Pixel Glow coming to the laptop. So just kind of talk about that for a little bit. I can't imagine that's going to have any insane functionality on a laptop form factor as opposed to a phone.
So speaking of Asus, really quick, is I as my Windows PC, I use the G16, I think.
Yeah. Or the Zephyrus G16.
Yeah,
I know what you have.
We use.
I have the 14s behind me. Yeah.
Yeah, and that has the LED strip on the front, on the top lid. Does that do notifications when it's asleep, or is that literally just a power status and other gimmicky?
I actually don't know, because my G14 model is the one that doesn't have the like dot matrix display in it. So I'm actually not sure if it can, because every demo I've ever seen of it is just like showing like little art designs or like whatever text you've put in, as opposed to like actual useful information. Yeah.
I don't
there.
use it to do that, and it doesn't do that for me. Maybe because I haven't set it up, but it's just not, wasn't interested in it. I feel like I'm scared it'll be something like that, where it's just on the top of the top panel, and maybe it's like a notification thing, like the same thing, or I mean it has to.
I guess it's different with notifications on an Android tablet, though, isn't it? Because the way in which we receive notifications on our phone, and if it's going to pair with the phone, is going to be more cohesive. I guess the closest approximation I can think is how Mac OS handles its notifications versus Windows. So maybe there is some utility there.
You would think that Google would want to emulate that, given now they're adding that little piece of the puzzle in their ecosystem.
Yeah, possibly.
If it's supposed to be like that piece of the puzzle and not like, Chromebook-like, or, just a Go version of something,
Interesting.
Quick follow-up on the Asus stuff. because I found the how-to. First of all, it's called Matrix. It's anime, but me is the M is capitalized. I don't know. Whatever. So mostly it's for like cool animations or text, largely speaking. But if you scroll far enough down, you can get to a part where it says you can switch from animation mode to system mode, which allows you to show notifications or system stats. But the only thing it seems to show in the notification settings example they have here is mail, clock, alarm, date and calendar, and battery level.
All the things I use on my laptop.
I was going to say by mail, I assume they mean the Windows Mail app.
Right, the mail app.
The only time it is open on my computer is when I click an email link and forget that that's not going to open Gmail. Yeah, so it's not great, even though the idea is obviously there. I bet there's third-party tools that allow you to do this more, but clearly in the Armory Crate stuff, ASUS has not taken this idea quite as far as maybe it could be taken. Maybe that's for Google to pick up and run with.
Yeah, I mean, if it's surfacing now in these leaks, it's probably something that's like, I would assume it's something that's much bigger than, just an afterthought, because it has a lot of potential. I mean, we've spent how many minutes talking about lights? It has potential,
20 minutes.
To be something really cool. So,
yeah, I think that's all we hope for. I think the main thing is Google you need to land this laptop out the gate and make sure the lights do something cool. And I think most of us will be pretty happy. But I just want to say thanks for joining us today, Andrew. We'll have you back on in future to talk about this laptop when it comes, because I think there's going to be a lot of interesting discussions around Android as a desktop operating system. And maybe Pixel Glow is just an afterthought in that piece of hardware. And I think that's all it needs to be. Just nail the software. And I think everything else will kind of fall into place.
Damien, I want to give a shout out to Android 17 QPR1 Beta 1, which we mentioned briefly earlier. If you're wondering why we're not talking about it, it's because there's nothing really to talk about. There's no user-facing
there is
features.
We're expecting a bigger update around iOS.
So it'll come, but this is just laying the groundwork for whatever is next. But it's there if you want to test it.
If you want to test it, there's nothing new there. Sadly, there's maybe a tiny few little tweaks of UI elements, but for the most part, absolutely nothing to report on that. But yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. I know it's a bit of a different one. We're talking lights and laptops, which is very out of our wheelhouse.
Thanks for the name of the episode, Damien.
Yes. So thanks for joining me, guys. Hopefully speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Pixelated, a 9to5 Google podcast. If you enjoyed the show, we ask that you rate and review it on the podcast platform of your choice, and help spread the word by sharing the show with friends or on social media.